Hey Rich Girls, Kirby here. Welcome to another episode of Rich Girls Guide, and Happy New Year! Woohoo! Let me be the first to tell you that I have made so many budgets over the years with the best intentions of sticking to them. Yeah, inevitably, I would always forget about them. Sometimes this was because I was not sticking to my limits in certain categories, and so my brain would conveniently forget to check the budget that month. Sometimes we just had a really busy season in life, and because I did not have the procedures in place to check on my budget periodically, I would just check it less and less frequently before it completely fell to the wayside. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I do not have some secret recipe to a foolproof budget that will fix all of your problems. And if somebody tells you they do, they're probably lying. And honestly, they're probably trying to sell you something. What I do have is a practical guide, if you will, to help you along your budgeting journey. I am also going on a budgeting journey. 2024 is going to be the year of testing my budget, challenging myself to stick to this budget, and I am inviting you to join me along the way. Before we dive in, I want to say a huge thank you for tuning in today. If you find this information helpful and want to support me so that I can make more content for you, please follow wherever you are tuning in right now. And a super quick reminder that you can view these in video format on YouTube and Spotify. Please note, this is not financial advice. This is simply my opinion and should be used for entertainment purposes only. Creating a budget is not just for low income or middle class households. If you make a lot of money or you come into a lot of money, you should not just throw your budget out the window and swipe that card day in and day out. In fact, when I worked in wealth management, one of the highest paid people in my office, and they were paid quite a bit, they stuck to a budget and they made a lot of money. And while their budget looked dramatically different from my own, I'm talking like 1 month of fun spending for them was almost 3 months of all of our household expenses, including the mortgage. They still stuck to that budget and they continually looked at their spending habits because they knew that the quickest way to get into financial ruin is by not sticking to a budget. I do not care how much money you make. If you spend more than you bring in, which means you're living above your means, and you're not properly saving for retirement, you are heading down a financial death spiral. Okay, that was slightly melodramatic, but you get the point. Having a system in place to ensure you are not spending above your means is key to living a financially stable life. Okay, so I have a budgeting framework that I'm going to share with you, lovely people, today. But let me just preface this by saying I am going to be testing this out alongside you guys. While I have used a similar framework as this for other parts of my life, for example, creating financial goals, cutting out certain things from my life, like alcohol, adding in certain things like consistently working out, I have never followed these rules specifically for budgeting for a long period of time, but I'm putting it into the ether and on the internet that I'm going to be following this budgeting framework, let's call it the 5 rules of budgeting, for 1 whole year. Y'all can hold me accountable. I'm going to keep you guys updated on my journey and I'm inviting you to join me. All right, let's get to the 5 rules. First up, pick a budgeting software. Now, I personally just started using Rocket Money. You can link all of your credit cards, checking accounts, investment accounts, etc., so that the software itself can track your expenses for you. Now, I used to use Mint back in the day, and while it worked fine for like a free budgeting app, I did find that I would have to constantly re-link my accounts, so like my checking account and my credit card, and I would have to categorize my expenses month over month. Like it would not remember how I categorized a particular store like Costco, even if I categorized it multiple times as grocery. But this was years ago, so they may have gotten better. Either way, find an app that you like, or feel free to just use a spreadsheet like Excel. Just be mindful that you need to be looking at all of your accounts when writing down expenses or linking accounts. So credit cards, checking accounts, savings accounts, you get the picture. Anything that expenses come from should be linked. I will keep you guys updated on how the Rocket Money app is going for me. They're not a sponsor, FYI. Although feel free to hit me up. Your girl is not opposed to a sponsorship. I am going to be giving you my brutally honest opinion throughout this budgeting journey, so I'll let you know what I think of them as I continue to use the app more. All right, second, we are going to write out our budget. Now, this is going to be a journey, and I have 2 recommendations for you. First, we're going to reverse engineer what you think your budget should be. By that, I mean we are going to start with the monthly income coming into your account and back into how much of that income should be used for different categories. I am going to start with our income. If you get paid every other week, meaning you are going to receive 26 paychecks throughout the year instead of 24, I would multiply the paycheck you get by 26 and then divide by 12 to get your monthly income. If you get paid twice a month, you can just double your normal paycheck to get your monthly income. If you have federal and state taxes and health insurance already taken out of your paycheck, just make sure to not include those in your monthly budget, since you are already paying for those prior to receiving your paycheck. Same for any 401k contributions. Okay, once you have that figure, let's say that comes to $5,000 a month for the household, we'll knock out the 3 big normal expenses: housing, groceries, and debt payments. Housing should be pretty simple. Just put in your mortgage or your rent. I know there are a ton of methods and percentages people like to throw around when it comes to budgeting for housing. Personally, I don't really feel comfortable telling people how much to spend when it comes to housing you or your family. Just know if you pay more for housing, regardless of whether it is rent or mortgage, just know you need to decrease spending in other categories to make up for it. For us, our mortgage, which includes principal and interest payment on our loan, the escrow payment, which is just personal property tax and home insurance, and the HOA fees, which you might not have any, for us that totals 28% of our take-home income. Now, take-home income for us is what hits our account after taxes have already been taken out, health insurance has already been taken out, HSA contributions and 401k contributions have all been taken out. Since our take-home income is what we're working with, that is the figure I'm going to use for the percentages of our budget. Our pre-tax, pre-health insurance income is honestly really not that helpful in determining what our budget should be. As far as our housing budget goes, that is definitely on the higher end for where I would like it to be. Personally, we would like to have it a little bit lower percentage of our income going to our housing, which to us just means we need to increase our income in order to get that percentage lower. For others, that might mean moving or going to a place that is, less expensive. Right now, I am bringing in the least amount I have ever brought in throughout the entirety of our relationship, which we expected and we prepared for. I just quit my office job like 2.5 months ago at this point, so the next 6 months or so, I'm going to be hustling to get my portion of the income up quite a bit from where it is now. All right, moving on to debt payments. These are going to be things like car payments, credit card payments, student loans, personal loans, basically any kind of loan that is not a mortgage. Now, most of these will be fixed or at least close month to month, so you can put those in your budget. The exception to that might be credit card payments. And to be clear, this does not include paying off your balance at the end of the month. This is credit card debt. So expenses from previous months that you have yet to pay off. If you're paying interest on it, it's a debt. Debt might be a pretty high category for you aside from your mortgage, so you should not have debt payments totaling more than 15% of your monthly take-home income. Yes, you heard that correctly. So you're gonna multiply your monthly take-home income, the after-tax, after insurance, after 401k figure, and multiply that by 0.15. You should not have more than that number in cumulative debt payments. If you do, your first plan of attack is to pay off some or all of that debt. And if you want an episode on how to attack debt, let me know in the comments. Now for us, we only have a car payment. Granted, it is 8% of our budget, which is much higher than I would like for a car payment. But since it's our only debt, we're not gonna get our panties in a bunch. Next, we have groceries. Now, I know everyone listening right now has felt the effects of inflation at the grocery store. Your normal haul is probably anywhere from 2 to 5% more expensive than this time last year. Now, according to this article by Nerd Wallet, the cost of groceries are food prices going up. They say food prices as a whole have increased 2.9% from November 2022 to November 2023. Now, that includes both groceries and restaurants, so take from that what you will. While food is definitely more expensive at the moment, you do need to be prepared for cost of living increases every year. And there are always ways to mitigate your overall grocery bill. Getting whole fruit instead of sliced fruit, checking out coupons and making a list before going to the store, getting generic brand instead of name brand when it won't be noticed by, the picky eaters in the household, are just a few examples that we tried to implement in our household. I have also found that instead of decreasing our grocery budget or making too many cuts to our list, we instead opt to eat out at restaurants less and cook at home more so that we can still get the food we want at the store and not really have to skimp. Now, this works out well for our lifestyle because we have a 4 and a 6-year-old, so going out to a restaurant means finding activities to keep the kids occupied, frequent bathroom trips, reading the menu 10 times out loud. Honestly, it's not my top choice when I think of going out and doing something fun as a family. So for us, groceries are a huge part of our budget. Currently, it is sitting at 14%, which is just our budgeted amount. I am quite confident that our actual grocery bill is quite a bit higher, which I will be going into on the next budgeting video that I have planned. Groceries are budgeted for 14%, and eating out is budgeted for 5%. Okay, I'm going to rattle off the rest of my budget with little to no explanation, and hopefully this will remind you of some things that you should be accounting for in your budget as well. Okay, subscriptions, so streaming services, gym, etc. is 2%. Pet stuff is 4%. Clothing is 3%. We have kids that are growing like weeds. Entertainment is 3%. Vacation/travel is 5%. Presents for the girls, so like Christmas, birthday parties, all that fun stuff is 2%. Kids savings, so college account, investments account, that kind of stuff is 4%. Extra retirement savings, so this is in addition to 401k contributions, we are budgeting 7%. I'm going to lump utilities, gas, like for your car, and Wi-Fi all together, which comes to 7%. Life insurance is roughly 1% and well worth the money. Vehicle property tax, even though we don't pay it monthly, we still have to account for it, so 2%. Classes and things for the girls. So we have 2% budgeted, and this is for stuff like swim lessons, dance, that kind of stuff. We're actually doing free programs right now through the Parks and Rec program through our county. They have free classes, and they're actually really amazing. The teachers are great, and the girls love it. So we've been taking full advantage of those free classes, but I didn't want to take this out of the budget just in case we do decide to put them in something else. So 2% is budgeted there. And then finally, we have unexpected/miscellaneous expenses budgeted for 4%. And if I mathed correctly, that should all come out to 100%. Also, just a quick clarification, I put our toiletries, so like paper towels, toilet paper, shampoo, all that fun stuff. That's actually included in our grocery budget because I get a lot of that stuff at either like Costco or Target. So I'm not gonna be like separating out my purchases. Like $350 went to food and $40 went to toiletries. That is entirely too much effort for me. So I lump those together. Now I'm going to put these into my budgeting app and link all of my accounts so that it can track my expenses and tell me how I'm doing. My second suggestion, after you reverse engineer your budget and kind of look at everything in an ideal world, link all of your accounts in your budgeting app and then look at what you actually spent, and you may need to adjust some of those budgets accordingly. Okay, so now that we have a budgeting software, our third framework item is to pick a budgeting method. Now, your budgeting method is different from your budgeting software. Let's think of it in terms of baking cookies. Your budgeting software, either your app or your spreadsheet, is like your directions. It tells you the ingredients and steps to make your cookies. But just because you have directions, aka software, it does not mean you are going to follow them while you are baking. I am notorious for up cookies, even the simple ones. We need a method to make sure we are following the instructions laid out for us. So what are some different methods that we can use? Let's start with the envelope method. While I have never actually used this method, I have heard so many people swear by the envelope method, particularly those who were prone to get into credit card debt and overspend. I believe this was popularized by Dave Ramsey, if I'm not mistaken, and essentially it is the epitome of a budgeting method. You take out your entire monthly budget in cash from the bank. You make an envelope for each category of your budget, put the budgeted amount of cash into each envelope, and you are only allowed to spend from the cash in your envelopes. No credit cards, just cash. I'm talking like an actual envelope. So you take out cash from the bank, you stuff it in your envelope, and then you're like supposed to carry this around, I guess. Now, I'm not entirely sure what you're supposed to do if you need to buy something online. I would assume you just deposit that money back into your checking account from the appropriate envelope and then use your debit card to make the purchase. Knowing what I do about Dave Ramsey, he would probably just yell at you to not buy things online. It's a great solution. While it is extreme, I do think there is something to the envelope method. You are much more aware of handing cash over to the cashier when you make a purchase. You are very aware when the cash is running low in a certain category. And you might even be more likely to hustle and get that bag so you have some extra cash on hand. I personally am not going to be using the envelope method, although I do think that would be like a fun challenge, like a little video. Let me know if you would want to see that. But I have a similar method to put in its place. Now, it is a bit cumbersome, but again, we want to keep our budget top of mind. I like to use my budgeting software, and I categorize each expense every single day. Now, I used to do this way back in the day. I would check my credit card first thing in the morning, put money on the card if there was a balance, and categorize every expense from the day prior. I definitely fell off the wagon from that. It was a bit time consuming, but I was so much better at sticking to my budget that way. So we're reverting back to that. I am going to be checking my budgeting app every single day. And to make sure that I don't forget, I'm going to put a reminder on my phone. I am a huge phone reminder freak. I'm a mom, I have mom brain, and I need to put a reminder for things that I do not want to forget. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a reminder on my phone right now, and let's do it every day. Let's say 10 a.m. All right, and that way, that gives me some time in the morning to be phone free, spend time with my girls, and maybe get a little work done before I have to go through my expenses. By doing it every day, I am doing two huge things. I'm reminding myself of the budget, keeping it top of mind, and I am making less work for myself. If I only went through our expenses like once a week, that would be a huge time suck for me. We have a lot of things to categorize, so doing a little bit every day just fits better into my life. All right, fourth step in the framework. check on your progress. This is where I have slacked off in the past. Even if I manage to keep up with the method above and I am putting purchases in the correct category, I have still been able to trick myself into not reviewing the previous month's spending, usually because I knew I wasn't sticking to it. But that's not a good excuse, and I think I might have a good solution for that. Monthly, on the first day of the month, go back through the previous month and check on your progress. Again, I put a reminder on my phone so I don't forget, and I get to check it off as soon as I'm done, which if you're anything like me, you love to check something off your list. If you stuck to the budget, this will be fun. You get to congratulate yourself, and I would recommend having some kind of celebratory reward lined up ahead of time. This could be something as simple as a game night and cookies with the fam, or if you budget correctly, have a nice dinner out or go to the movies. Again, whatever the reward is, make sure it is included in your budget. It's also important to remember that even if you don't stick to your budget, progress is still progress. If you have decreased your spending from previous months or even years of overspending, that is something to be proud of. The more you stick to it and the kinder you are to yourself when things don't go perfectly, the better your chances are at trying again next month. Now, being kinder does not mean going out and getting yourself a little treat because you're feeling down. Being kinder means not berating yourself, not berating others in the house, or generally having a stick up your ass just because you didn't reach a goal. We review, we gear up for the next month, and we move forward. All right, fifth and final part of the framework. Reevaluate your budget when income and expense changes occur. If you have a change in income, either up or down, make sure that is reflected in your budget. For example, if you got a raise at work, the first thing that needs to be increased is your retirement and investment savings. I would continue on as normal with the rest of your budget for at least 2 months before increasing any other categories. Remember, we always pay ourselves first. After a few months, you'll have a better idea if any other categories need to be adjusted. Same thing if you take a loss of income. You will need to go through that budget and slash some stuff down. Now, I would highly urge you to not touch your retirement and investment savings budget if possible. Obviously, that is not always going to be a possibility, but depending on how much of an income loss you took. But if it is possible, try to keep your retirement and investment savings the same. Future you will thank you. All right, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty good about this 5-step budgeting framework thing that we have going on. On the day this video drops, January 1st, I am going to be starting this budgeting process for the entire year of 2024. I will be checking in with you guys periodically. I already have some fun video ideas, and I'm thinking I will dedicate a shorter bonus episode once a month with an update on my budgeting journey. And I'm inviting you to join me. Whenever you are watching this, whether it's January 1st or later in the year, I encourage you to follow these 5 steps and try sticking to your budget for an entire year. Whether or not you are able to meet your budget each month, continue with the framework and see where it takes you. And I would love to hear how your journey is going along the way. If you want more up-to-date updates on my budgeting journey, definitely follow along on TikTok. That's where I'm going to be posting the most updates. If you know someone who could use a kick in the pants, please feel free to send them this episode. If you have any questions, you can comment on YouTube, and if you want your question to be featured on an upcoming episode, ask away at the link in the show notes. Keep it rich and see you next Monday.